According to the Washington Post, Atlanta braces for possible indictments in the 2020 election investigation. For more than 2 years, people here and across the country have watched and waited for clues that the high profile Georgia investigation into whether former President Donald Trump and his allies broke the law in their attempts to overturn his 2020 election loss in the state was winding to an end. That speculation hit fever pitch in recent days with the installation of Orange County barriers near the main entrance of the Fulton County Courthouse in downtown Atlanta. It was the most visible sign yet of the looming charging decision in a case that has ensnared not only Trump but several high-profile Republicans who could either face charges or stand witness in a potential trial unlike anything seen before in this southern metropolis. It is one of several investigations into attempts to reverse Trump's loss in 2020, including spiraling Justice Department probe overseen by Special Counsel Jack Smith that has sparked its own intensifying waiting game in recent days. Smith and his team have interviewed or sought information from several witnesses, also key to the Georgia investigation. Trump has said he received a letter from the Justice Department saying he could face criminal charges for his efforts after the election that preceded the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. While the pace of Smith's investigation has been unpredictable, Fulton County District Attorney Fannie T. Smith, a Democrat, took the unusual step of publicly telegraphing that she plans to announce a charging decision in the Georgia case during the first 3 weeks of August, a period that opens Monday. Quote, "The work is accomplished," close quote, Willis told Atlanta's WXIA-TV on Saturday. "We've been working for 2.5 years. We're ready to go." In Atlanta, local, state, and federal law enforcement officials have been privately meeting for months to plan enhanced security measures in anticipation of that announcement. All eyes are now on two criminal grand jury panels sworn in on July 11. One group that meets on Monday and Tuesdays, the other that meets on Thursdays and Fridays. One of the panels will probably decide whether charges should be filed in the closely watched election interference case, a decision that could put Trump, who is now under indictment in 2 other criminal cases, in even more legal peril. Willis has strongly hinted for months that she will seek multiple indictments in the case, using Georgia's expansive anti-racketeering statutes that allow prosecutors not only to charge in-state wrongdoing, but to use activities in other states to prove criminal intent in Georgia. In court filings, Willis has described her probe as an investigation of multiple state coordinated efforts to influence the results of the November 2020 election in Georgia and elsewhere. At least 18 people were informed by prosecutors last year that they were targets of the investigation. That list includes former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani, who acted as Trump's personal attorney after the election, and several Georgia Republicans who served as alternate Trump electors and falsely signed documents claiming Trump won Georgia, though some have since been granted immunity. But Willis's scope is believed to be larger than that. Georgia law does not require individuals to be formally notified they are targets of an investigation. Behind the scenes, law enforcement officials have already been discussing how it could all play out, including the anticipated crash of media and curious onlookers and potential protests that officials fear could be disruptive in a key part of downtown Atlanta. Officials are also considering the logistics of how potential high-profile defendants might surrender for arrest, according to a person familiar with the preparations who, like others interviewed, also spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss private meetings or sensitive plans. People who are indicted in Fulton County usually are arrested and processed for fingerprints at the Fulton County Jail before making their first court appearance. But the decrepit conditions of the jail, including crowding and unsanitary conditions, recently sparked a Justice Department civil rights investigation into the facility. That has led to speculation that Trump, if indicted, could be processed at the courthouse or another location for security reasons, a request that could come from his attorneys or the Secret Service. The Fulton County Courthouse sits directly across the street from the Georgia Capitol building, where hundreds of Trump supporters, some armed, gathered in anger in the aftermath of his 2020 election loss. State officials at that time received death threats related to the fraud claims posed by Trump and his allies. Atlanta City Hall sits adjacent to both buildings, while the Richard B. Russell Federal Building and U.S. Courthouse is located a few blocks away. The county courthouse has already been subject to enhanced security because of ongoing threats to Willis and her staff, including racist, threatening phone calls related to the election investigation, according to two people familiar with the threats. It's an issue that Willis, who is often accompanied by armed bodyguards during public appearances, has raised both private and publicly. In January 2023, just days after impanel a special grand jury to investigate the case, Willis, the first black woman elected as Fulton County District Attorney, sent a letter to the head of the FBI's Atlanta field office requesting a risk assessment of the courthouse, citing alarming rhetoric from Trump. In the letter, Willis pointed to remarks Trump had made at a Texas rally the previous weekend, where he attacked unnamed prosecutors investigating him in cities including Atlanta as racist and mentally sick. Ain't that the kettle calling the pot black? Just think about that for a moment. Yeah, just like I thought. And we already know who the threats are coming from. Willis also cited communications she and her staff had received from persons unhappy with the investigation. Since then, Trump has escalated his attacks, describing Willis's probe as a political witch hunt, whatever, and repeatedly referring to her as the racist DA from Atlanta. Willis has largely declined to comment on Trump's remarks. It's ridiculous in nature, Willis told Atlanta's WSB-TV in April, but I respect his right to be protected by the First Amendment and say what he likes. But Willis has continued to raise concerns about security, which some have read as a hint that Trump may be among those who are charged in her investigation. In an April letter to Fulton County Sheriff Patrick Labatt, Willis offered her appreciation for additional security at the courthouse, including increased officers and new metal detectors that were installed, and jury selection in another high-profile case involving rapper Jeffrey Lamar Williams, known as Young Thug. But Willis said the need for vigilance will increase and urged heightened security and preparedness ahead of her announcement in the election case. Open source intelligence has indicated the announcement of decisions in this case may provoke a significant public reaction. Willis wrote in her letter, "We have seen in recent years that some may go outside of public expression of opinion that are protected by the First Amendment to engage in acts of violence that will engage the safety of our community. As leaders, it is incumbent for us to prepare." Similar letters were also sent to the chief of the Atlanta Police Department and other top law enforcement officials in the region, prompting meetings between local, state, and federal law enforcement and other local officials about security around political indictments and possible arrangements, according to two people familiar with the preparations. Labatt, who oversees security at the courthouse and the jail, has spearheaded much of the planning process, according to two people familiar with those plans. In April, the sheriff dispatched two deputies to observe proceedings in New York, where Trump was indicted on charges related to hush money payments made to an adult film actress. Fulton County deputies also traveled to Miami, where Trump was arraigned in June on federal charges tied to his handling of classified documents. Labatt, who could not be reached for comment, told WXIA-TV in June that the deputies sent to New York and Miami understood the gravity of it, as the agency made its own preparations in advance of Willis's announcement. The Atlanta Police Department, which has jurisdiction over the city streets around the courthouse, also sent an officer to Miami during the Trump arraignment, according to a spokesperson who otherwise declined to comment on the department's planning. Those agencies have been coordinating with the Georgia State Patrol, which oversees security on the Capitol grounds. Officials with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, and Secret Service have attended security meetings. According to a person familiar with the plans, all agencies declined to comment. Through a spokeswoman for the sheriff also confirmed the coordinated efforts. The Fulton County Sheriff's Office is proactively coordinating with local, state, and federal agencies to enhance security during high-profile legal proceedings at the Fulton County Courthouse. Natalie Ammons, a spokeswoman for the Sheriff's Office, said in an email, "Some of the measures we are deploying, such as barriers that will limit parking near the courthouse, will be obvious to the public. For security reasons, other measures being deployed will not be as obvious." Last month, the Georgia Supreme Court rejected a Trump motion to block Willis's investigation. A second near-identical motion filed in Fulton County Superior Court remains pending. An outside judge assigned to hear the case scheduled an August 10 hearing on the motion. But McBurney suggested his Monday ruling now renders the case moot, though he acknowledged the decision will that the decision will unindubtably generate an appeal. Drew finding who leads Trump's Georgia's legal team, did not respond to a request for comment. I'm Tyrone Bowman. Never surrender. Never quit.